Now, all revved up for more red-hot motorsport, it's the LG Super Racing Weekend with
Yokohama, power of performance.
Welcome to Spain, welcome to round 4 of the FIA GT Championship, the 4th LG Super Racing Weekend, at about 30 minutes northwest of Madrid in the Spanish heartland. This is the circuit of Jarama and the venue for the 4th FIA GT race of the season. Cars are on the grid, so let's take a look at this 3.8-kilometre Jarama track, former home of the Spanish Grand Prix, long since outdated, and you can see why. Lots of medium to slow corners, starting with the bumpy entry into Nuvolari and Fangio. Double left-hander at Le Mans, second gear stuff, up the hill to Pegaso, through Ascari, Portago and Bugatti, uphill again to Monza, and then downhill onto the start-finish straight out of the tunnel turn. It's going to be second, third, fourth gear stuff for the GT cars, and it's hard to pass on this demanding circuit. Tyres also will have a moderately short life in the heat, and with the huge number of left-hand corners putting plenty of stress on them. But what about the poleman? This is Andrea Piccini in the Ferrari. Hot weather, he says, will be the main problem. We've got a new problem with the rear-view mirrors, which is just going to be annoying, but this morning's warm-up was good as qualifying. Everything seems to be fine. Well, the problem with the Ferrari sorted. The ProDrive built car has a new rear wing, which seems to have given them a bit more grip. Piccini showing with John Delatraz, Mike Hasemans and Anthony Kumpen outside row 1. Lister, Bobby Verdenroe and Paul Natfield, and then Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nicholas Springer dominating row 2. Babini and Duez in the Belmondo Viper ahead of Golin and Capillari in the second car sport car. Bouchou and Therian missed the Super Pole. They're in his 7th on the grid. Belmondo in his second car on 9th, ahead of Dominic Dupuy, who returns with his own team, with Barbani, those pair racing in the Spanish Championship. And the NGT pole, Stefano Ortelli this weekend sharing with Sasha Masson, his Porsche colleague. They are on pole, and indeed 5 of the 6 cars in the Super Pole for NGT were Porsches. Ferrari struggling here, it seems. Champion at Montermini with Pescatori, rather, the champion there, struggling back down on row 10. Jürgen von Garsten and Ian Kahn with Bastians and Merkstein on row 11. And we head down there into, well, strictly the padding, generally speaking. Jean-Marc Gounon and Sanguiolo, who share a Lamborghini here, also sharing a Porsche. And Philippe Alliot and David Halliday, nothing but bad luck on that Ferrari, going very well indeed until a number of problems have hobbled them and dropped them right down the order. Well, this is the view of the safety car from Andrea Piccini. John Denny Delatraz will take over the car later on, but it is Piccini who is the quicker of the pair, and he will do the starting. Over the rise, that is out of Monza, up towards the tunnel turn. We're with Mike Hasemans, the number 3 car sport Holland car. Should have won comfortably last time before at Silverstone, but the wheel fell off, pitching them into the gravel. They've had that problem also here this weekend, but they hope they've rectified that difficulty. The most weight-laden car in the field starts third. That's Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nicholas Springer, winner of 2 of this year's 4 races. They've got an 80-kilo weight penalty, which is like having a co-driver alongside you. Doesn't seem a lot when you look at the size of the cars, but believe me, it will make a big difference to their tyres. Piccini leads Hasemans into the first corner, then Campbell-Walter ahead of Verdenroe in the 2 Lister Storms. Can everybody make it safely through Nuvolari and Fangio? Yes, they do, and the number 5 blue and silver Ferrari already starting to make its way up through the slower NGT cars. But no matter what your horsepower advantage, overtaking is hard here. The Belmondo car, Duez and Babini up into 5th place, ahead of the second car sport Holland car, so as they were on the grid. And don't forget the tyre battle here. Pirelli tyres on the lead car and on the second place car on the Ferrari and on the car sport Holland cars. Behind them, 3rd and 4th, Dunlop tyres on the 2 Lister Storms and Michelin tyres on the Viper of the Labra team. and the Cherrier Lafon Art Racing car. So a three-way tyre battle in the GT class, two-way battle. Well, Yokohama also involved, but chiefly and predominantly Pirelli versus Dunlop in the NGT class. And it's the Freisinger Porsche there that leads. And where's the best of the Ferraris? Fifth place ahead of the Auto Orlando, the second Auto Orlando car, mind you. The red, white and blue one, not the red, white and green one. So Andrea Piccini deciding to try and set off and head into the wilderness. Don't forget, last time out at Brno in the Czech Republic, the car was a three-way share between Piccini, Delatraz and Thomas Enger, the Formula 3000 Championship leader. He knows the Brno track better than anybody probably on the planet. He's raced there so many times and set a blistering pace in qualifying and to lead the race quite comfortably, drawing away very quickly indeed in the number 23 Ferrari until he dropped it off the road, avoiding somebody else's incident, and it ate some gravel or some debris, and the engine cried enough. Well, Haseman's through the tight and twisty second, third gear stuff from Le Mans to Farina, back down to second, then accelerating up the hill. Little left-handed kink up through Pegaso, and then cresting the rise as you take the first part of the right-left flick at Ascari, then down the hill to the second apex, plunging down the hill into Portago, and continuing, now starting to climb a little on the exit, and then over the brow, and then heading downhill very fast. This is much, much steeper than the camera makes it look, rattling through Bugatti. Here we go down the inside. Fabio Bobini having a look at Bobby Verdenreau at Bugatti, or on the approach. Then down the gearbox into second for Peggio. Note again the sequential gearbox in the Vipers this year, catching up with the rest of the field. Don't forget, at Brno last year, it was a Ferrari victory. The ProDrive Ferrari winning in Brno 2001. And the two Belmondo Vipers, second and third on the podium. A Dunlop 1, 2, 3. Can they repeat that performance here? Well, 2 wins for the Lister Storm so far. We've already had one for a Belmondo Viper, winning at Silverstone, Duez and Babini in this car, the number 12 machine, which currently lies 5th. But we'll have to wait and see whether they can manage another one. Lister know this track well, not only having raced here last year in the FIA GT series, but they've also raced Lister Storms in the Spanish GT Championship, one of their customer programs. So they have got plenty of setup information in Lawrence Pierce's book of knowledge to try and develop the best out of the cars here. And that is one of the real successes. If you think back to the 1980s in the British Formula 3, Dick Bennett's was the king then of having a setup for every car, every track, in every possible condition. Meticulous in his detailing, and Lawrence Pierce very much cut from the same mould as Dick Bennett. I don't think he'll be insulted by that particularly. Being a very successful team leader, team and boss, and engineers the cars as well himself, but that attention to detail, knowing exactly what happened, and then being able to convert that into why it happened on your cars and different tracks in different situations, that is the one of the big secrets of the Lister team, that and developing what they know so well, of course. Babini there in 5th place, then the 2 Labra Vipers. The number 1 car is, of course, the champion, Christophe Bouchou, with last year's NGT champion David Terrian alongside him. That's behind Babini and Duez as we ride with them in 5th place in the 12 car. Note again, look, the onboard camera shows you how much downhill and then onto the bottom of the straight and starting to climb towards the end of it again. And everybody over by the pit wall, avoiding all the ferocious ripples on the driver's left of the track, finally having to brave them to brake for the first turn. Nuvolari, but staying on the pit wall to avoid all of that disturbance. So behind the 2 Lister Storms, the Belmondo car, then the 2 Labra Vipers. But at the moment, the battle out front is Mike Haseman's trying to hold on to the coattails of Andrea Piccini in the Ferrari. Well, clearly the Ferrari, the newest of the GT cars, much less long in the teeth than the Lister or indeed the Vipers. And I think all that parlays into perhaps its chassis balance and its general behaviour. And on a track like this that is so demanding of these big cars, perhaps that is why the Ferrari seems again this year, as in Brno, to have perhaps more of an advantage than on Magny-Cours or Silverstone, where the track is pretty smooth, pretty level, not much of an incline or no real grades anywhere on either track, and pretty fast as well. And in the medium to fast stuff, these cars are so well developed that, of course, they have, you know, got that balance. But in the tight and twisty stuff, maybe the Ferrari just has that little bit of an extra advantage, and certainly at the moment it is driving away from Hazelmans, who you've just seen from the two listers, from the Belmondo car, and then you've got the two Labra cars and the other Belmondo car behind that. But Dominic Dupuy also, look for the silver and blue coloured car with the yellow flashes. That's Dominic Dupuy's machine. That's not the number 5 Philippe Alliot David Halliday Ferrari. That is the Dominic Dupuy Racing Viper. Good to see Dupuy back, of course, many years an Orica driver, also done the odd stint for Labra in multi-lineup teams with them. Now it looks as though Jamie Campbell-Walter is under a bit of pressure from Bobby Verdenroe here. Campbell-Walter in 3rd spot, but Verdenroe all over the back of him like a rash. Verdenroe 4th place with, of course, Babini right behind, and we've seen from Babini's camera that he is not holding back in his attacks on the Lister Storm, and as if to speak of the devil, here he comes. This is Ascari. Big lift, let it breathe through here, and essentially the second part of Ascari is just working yourself into shape for Portago here. Quite a slow corner, but leads onto an important section. Although it's curvy and although it pitches down the hill, this is, well, not quite flat out stuff, but fast and important and demanding little elements of the track, heading down through Bugatti to Peggio. Again, Peggio, very important to get it right. Can use a lot of road on the exit. Everybody goes around on the painted white lines. You're coming up the hill, and there is time over the brow just to get the car over to the driver's left and then turn into the right-hander at Monza. Effectively double apex right-hander at Monza, and then down, bouncing through tunnel turn. And again, as they come onto the straight, watch everybody aim for the pit wall to avoid the majority of the rippled tarmac on the outside. Just seems to be a little flatter by the pit wall. Goodness only knows why. Second Belmondo car going through there. Second Ferrari, of course, that is Lilian Brino, Enzo Calderari in the number 22 car. And Enzo Calderari starting that one. That's the car they share with Freddie Dorr. A nice little battle going on here for 3rd place. 4 cars involved, but Hazelmans just keeping himself out of reach. Only just, though, notice that the way he started off, you would have thought maybe he'd be gone by now, but unable to ease more than a couple of seconds ahead of Bobby Verdenroe. Piccini, though, is 5 seconds, well, 4 seconds, 0.3, up the road already. Belmondo Calderari, Jean-Pierre Jarier also in that long queue behind Dominic Dupuy, with Fabrizio Golin in the 9th placed Belmondo Viper. So a dozen GT cars. It's a good, strong field. The FIA GT Championship wisely avoiding the dangers of cars like the V8 BMW M3, like the Celine S7, which tend to dominate in their category. And as a result, we have got a good balanced 3-way squabble here between Viper teams, Ferrari teams and Lister teams. Of course, the Viper, the predominant customer car, but still, it is still a good balance, and a big lock-up there, I think, from Mike Hazelmans, which shows just how hard he is pressing, because as we watched the Listers go through there, they were going through with the whiff of tyre smoke in their nostrils. So this little 4-car train for 3rd, and then behind you can see the Labra car, number 2 Labra car, trying to break away at the moment from Golin in the Car Sport Holland car. That's the battle for 7th place as we ride on board with Fabio Babini, last year in the Art Engineering Porsches in the NGT class, and I have to say I've been most impressed by the way that he has adapted to a very different driving ethos, style and everything else in the Chrysler Viper. The little Italian, very quick indeed. Here's our NGT leader still, the 54 Porsche. Gosh, well, I shan't get tired of saying that, but impressed at how well Manfred Freisinger's crew have got the cars working this year. The Ferrari, the 2002 spec Ferraris, with their top driver lineups in the JMB Racing team, can no longer cruise through the race, certain that they'll do it on one stop. And that was the thing last year. Porsches had to go hell for leather out the front, gallop away into the sunset, knowing they would have to make 2 stops. And the Ferraris, well, as in a sort of 1980s Group C Porsche mode, they knew what lap times they could do to make it on one stop, and that's what they did, no matter what anybody else did. So he always had a sort of 2-part race, which is very hard to follow. Now it's much more accurate, though. Ortelli is galloping away in the Porsche, but he knows, as we do, that in previous races, the J&B Racing Ferraris, the 2002 spec cars, and at the moment behind the wheels are Andrea Montemani and Andrea Gabagnati. We know that they have not been able to make it on one stop so far this year, and so it is an all-out head-to-head race. And at the moment, certainly, the Preisinger Porsche has the advantage. Well, behind this car as well, there is a very strong battle in the NGT class. We've got some great squabbling going on behind. Second place is the RWS Motorsport car of Hans Ferty. There it is, the blue car that the Red Bull car was, the 76 machine. And that's a new entry for the Red Bull or the RWS Motorsport car. It's also bearing the allegiance to TMK, the Russian drivers Nikolai Fomenko and Alexander Vasiliev, bringing their sponsorship to the team, and maybe a little bit of that allowing RWS to run this second car. And that is the second placed car in the NGT category. Third place is another Porsche, the Auto Orlando car of Philip Pater. That's the white one with the Italian colours, red, white and green on it. And in fourth place in the NGT class, another Porsche, the 59 Auto Orlando car, Joel Kamathias, the Swiss ex-Formula 3000 ace, starting that one. Well, here we are with our race leader, John Denny Delatraz, watching it, I'm sure, with a glowing feeling of, A, isn't it going well, and B, let's hope it doesn't fall off the road and eat its engine like last time. Andrea Piccini at the helm, Delatraz watching proceedings from the pit wall, and doubtless taking shelter from the fierce sunshine. Hasemans now nearly 6 seconds back, and that's exactly what the Ferrari team will be absolutely cacking themselves about, finding a slow car in the middle of the track and falling over it. That was Klaus Horn in the second Certec Motorsport Porsche, very nearly taking the nose off a Ferrari so big, bright and red that surely even he can't have missed it. Fabini and Duez then still harassing the Lister Storms. This is the battle for third and fourth for two Listers. Campbell Walter now passed by Verden Rowe. We saw Bobby all over the back of Jamie's car earlier on. Bobby clearly feeling that he's got a bit of a faster machine, and between the two of them they have sorted out a swap of positions without allowing Babini to get a sniff of it, although I'm sure he had a very good sniff. Didn't actually manage to get in between them. Here our race leader is just stroking away from the field. Well, stroking probably not the right word, howling away from the field in the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari. BMS, the Scuderia Italia team, racing for many years in single seaters, of course, all the way up into Formula One with their Dallara Formula One chassis. A period of great anticipation and expectation, but very little in the way of reward. Mike Hasemans in second. Coming up behind the back marker is now Bobby Verden Rowe. Watching his mirrors way on the outside line is the back marker, but Verden Rowe decides not to try slipping inside Klaus Horn at that juncture, and will zip past under acceleration before they get into Achille Varzi's corner, or the corner named after him, and then down to Le Mans. Very few drivers of the modern era represented by corner names here. First turn named after Tazio Nuvolari, the second after the great Juan Manuel Fangio, the third after Achille Varzi, the fourth after the race that we'll be covering here in great detail on Eurosport in a fortnight's time, the Le Mans corners. Then Giuseppe Farina gets the mention, Alberto Ascari, Alfonso de Portago is this corner that we're just leaving. Plenty of pre-war and twixt war heroes, as well of course as the inimitable Fangio. Well, there is the number 14 car of Jamie Campbell Walter, racing on his own now. Wonder if he is nursing a little problem in the car. Babini still behind him and out of harm's way. In fact, Babini has got close company to worry about behind him. And Campbell Walter, Babini, Verden Rowe and Bouchou as they cross the line. Good battle for fourth place Bobby Verdenroe right in the middle of it. Welcome back to Jarama, race 4 of the FIA GT Championship, being led by well over 10 seconds by the Ferrari as he comes into the pits for his first stop. This is Andrea Piccini in the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari. Bobby Verdenroe in the number 15 Lister Storm has retired from the race, incidentally, with a clutch failure. Came to a halt in the track when it was blocked by a slower car, and by the time he got re-going, found that he had a slipping clutch, and the team have withdrawn him from the race. Jondelli Delatraz now taking over the lead car. Andrea Piccini's done an excellent opening stint, the only man down in the 133s in the early going. And so far, only the number 2 Labra car and the Lister have been challenging the leader in the Ferrari, I beg your pardon, the number 3 Car Sport Holland car and the Lister. But they've been chasing from a distance. There is a spin for Christophe Bouchou. Make a note in your diary, ladies and gentlemen. It's not infrequent to hear him complaining about the car not being up to spec, but genuine, honest-to-God mistakes by Bouchou are as rare as, I don't know what, hen's teeth, I expect. Christophe Bouchou into the pits then as well. At least a Labra car came past us then. I imagine that might perhaps have been Bouchou. Well, this is certainly a long old stop for the Ferrari. Don't forget, of course, as at Le Mans, fuel first with no other work going on, then tyres. Away he goes, though. Let's hear from Piccini. Car's going well, says Andrea, but our tyres are suffering a lot with the heat. And I said the drivers are suffering a lot more. You're worse. Over the last 10 laps, I was really looking forward to the pit stop. The pedals were burning my feet, and I've got blisters on the soles of my feet. It's so hot inside the car. Well, I tell you what, GT racing, it's not Formula 3000, Andrea. Car still leads, though. Well, the Ferrari, the first of the lead cars to stop, it was followed in a lap later by the 2nd and 3rd and 4th place cars, the Vipers and the Lister Storm. We now find ourselves 48 laps into the race, and once more the Ferrari has built up a margin. Jondelli Delatraz 15.5 seconds ahead of Anthony Kumpen in the Car Sport Holland car. Marc Duez is in 3rd place in the number 12 Belmondo Viper. Don't forget, both Belmondo cars on the podium here last year. Nicholas Springer taking over from Jamie Campbell-Walter, and the Lister Storm is in 4th. Luca Capillari 5th, that's the number 4 Car Sport car. David Terrian taking over from Christophe Bouchou in 6th place. Then Carl Rosenblad's Viper, Gosselin in the 2nd Belmondo car, then Lillian Brenner in the 2nd Ferrari, doing the middle stint for the 22 car. But it's been all about this car all the way from the start. Neither Piccini nor Delatraz got a chance to drive last time at Brno, as Thomas Enger had the car fail under him, but they're doing a great job here. Now then, NGT pit stops. This is the number 50 car of Christian Pescatori and Andrea Montermini. Montermini started. Pescatori, the reigning champion, is in. And the order in NGT, well, they were in 2nd place behind this car, the Freisinger Motorsport Porsche. And it comes in a lap later, and that may be telling. If it comes down to a splash and dash at the end, Manfred Freisinger's crew might be the ones with the advantage. And don't forget, Stefan Ortelli has certainly got no handicap in his co-driver, because Sascha Maassen is a very experienced GT long-distance driver, having raced lots in the American Le Mans Series, but also, of course, very experienced with the Porsche, not just in this format, but also, of course, he and Ortelli race Super Cup Porsches as well, so very, very familiar with the demands of the car, how to get the best out of it, most importantly, how to keep it alive over the distance. Well, we saw the 50 Ferrari just about making its way into traffic safely. It was very busy when they came round, and Ortelli shouting the last few instructions, probably the kind of watch the brake pedal, it's a bit spongy sort of information that is going to be so vital on your first lap out of the pits. from your teammate. Well, again, looks like an inordinately long stop because although you're allowed to, the two drivers are allowed to change while the fueling is going, no one else is allowed to touch the car, so separate tyre change after the refueling only. And oh dear, they've got a problem on the left front. Well, there's no point getting aerated about it. Just got to keep calm, get the car gone as soon as you can. This is Andrea Montemini, who was in the second-placed Ferrari. He said it's going quite well. We started from the back, well, actually from fifth in the class, and it wasn't easy at the beginning. Been a tough battle with the Porsches, but we were going quickly and catching the leader. That's why I passed so many cars, and we're in second place now. We'll have to see what happens. What about the tyres in the heat? Yeah, a little bit hot, but our tyres have performed well. I think Pirelli's new tyre here is certainly living up to what the engineers hoped for. Well, Pirelli bringing a brand new hot weather tyre here seems to be helping out. On Dunlop's is Stefano Otelli. Otelli leading the NGT category, but very warm. Said, yeah, well, the only problem is the driver. But we're used to that now, so I guess we'll just have to live with it as long as the car keeps going. On the other hand, we have got a fuel problem and a tyre problem. We're using a lot of both, and we are still leading the race, so I hope that Sachin will be able to do a good job like we did in qualifying. At the moment, we're fastest. The mechanics of the car are very strong. Hopefully, we'll hold on. Well, they are in the lead of the category after the fuel stops, but will they all need another one? Now, the 57th lap of the race, and the number 4 Car Sport Holland car going very slowly, being blown off by one of the Ferraris, howling by him. And it looks like Luca Capillari has a problem. Not up to speed at all. Being passed by the Lilian Brinner Enzo Calderari Ferrari. And behind him he's got François Lafont, who's taken over the number 9 car from Jean-Pierre Jarier. What, is it a brake problem? He seems to be all right in a straight line, but oh my goodness me, almost stopped dead in the corner. Well, no, not a brake problem, something else then. I wonder what it is. Mechanically related, could possibly be a problem with the sequential gearbox, or possibly even an engine problem, electronics or something, dropping the car off the pace. But there he is, down. And in the pits, the word from Mike Hazeman's team is that there is an oil pump failure on the car. The race continues without the number 4 machine. Welcome back to race 4 in the FIA GT Championship at Jarama, lap 75, and the lead Ferrari still running strongly at the head of the pack, heading into the pits for its second tyre stop. John Delatraz taking over from Andrea Piccini and doing every bit as good a job as the Italian in the first stint. Delatraz braving the heat. Now Piccini, who's already debilitated from that first one. We heard him say after the first stint that the brake pedal has burnt the soles of his feet. Well, he'll have to somehow find a way to live with that. In the American Le Mans Series, in these big front-engine cars, they use asbestos in the boots to stop that happening, because roll cage temperatures and pedal temperatures get up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a tyre war, it's a car war, it's a team war, says John Denis. Currently everything's going well for our team. We've got a car that's perfect. Michelin tyres are going superbly. What about the heat? Is it bothering you? Well, we do have a little problem because we don't have power steering in the car, so the physical effort plus the heat is very great indeed. Despite that, the car leading. Did say earlier on it was on Pirelli tyres, of course, that's just my brain not working. Michelin tyres on that one. Lap 80, the Silverstone winners, Marc Duez and Fabio Bobini in the pits. And it's an oil pump failure, the Belmondo team say, that has robbed them of a chance to finish on the podium, as they did with both cars here last year in the penultimate race of last year's championship. And further to the retirement of the number 4 Racing Box, Racing Holland entry, by the way, that was an electrical failure. In the NGT class, Porsches and Ferraris still battling, running line astern, the 2 Ferraris, but it's Sasha Masson who leads, Christian Pescatori second, and Antonio Garcia in a Porsche in 3rd spot. And that means that the Ferraris are again having a difficult time, but in the pits is Antonio Garcia. And the Spaniard who raced here last year when the championship came to Spain, having the second drive in that new RWS Motorsport car. And it looks as though it's not doing him any good at all. He is out of the race in the pits at the moment. Well, the number 51 and 50 Ferraris running in nose-to-tail formation. And all 4 JMB racing cars, of course, here this weekend, after one of them badly damaged at Silverstone, missing Bruno. So overall, Piccini, Haseman's 26 seconds back, Bouchou 3rd, Campbell Walter in the Lister in 4th, ahead of Voss and Belmondo. And the race leader in traffic, Andrea Piccini, 101 laps in the book, and we reckon maybe another 10 to go as we close towards the end of the 3-hour race. Under a quarter of an hour left, and they're lapping just over 1:30s. So Andrea Piccini with perhaps another 9 laps after this to the end of the race, leading from Mike Haseman's 3rd place Christophe Bouchou, 4th place the 2nd Labra Viper now, up into 4th is Vincent Voss, 5th place the number 11 Belmondo car, and that must be its best race showing of the year so far. 6th place is the Lister Storm of Bobby Verdon, Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nicolas Springer, a double winner so far this year. But it looks like we will have a new winner, a first-time Ferrari win for the BMS Scuderia Italia team. And will we have a Ferrari win in the NGT class? Christian Pescatori in NGT in 2nd spot, and that is not the NGT class leader ahead of him. Sasha Masson in the number 54 Porsche is leading still, the car he took over in the lead from Stefan Ortelli. 3rd place is the 76 RWS Motorsport car. We just saw that, Antonio Garcia. Garcia, we saw in the pits for his 2nd stop. That's the splash and dash that they all are likely to need, we think. Piccini still romping away out front, and Sasha Masson is enjoying himself, perhaps not as much as if he had full grip, but you can always tell when Sasha is having fun at the wheel. He doesn't mind the car moving around a lot, and it's probably a good thing in a long distance race in a GT3 RS. Blown by the Belmondo Viper. Paul Belmondo in the 11 car. What's that waving out the side window there? Something loose on the outside. Maybe a bit of cooling duct has finally given in to the rush of airflow at high speed. Looks like some bit of tape there. Nothing to worry about, I don't think. Nothing to worry about either for Andrea Piccini. Here he comes through Bugatti. There's the Freisinger Motorsport Porsche right in front of us, and he's about to put a lap on the Belmondo car. Might yet do it before the end of the race as well. Up the hill, and see the way that the power of the V12 reels in the Porsche supercar, though the Porsche may be. Not quite as supercar as the Ferrari when it comes to sheer grunt. Out of tunnel, down the hill, whoosh, straight by on the straight. Sasha Masson giving him plenty of room down the inside. He knew that he would be going driver's right there as the race leader continues to motor on. Closing stages of the 4th round of the FIA GT Championship at Jarama, on board with Christian Pescatore, the reigning NGT champions, having a tougher time of it this year in the J&B Ferrari 360 Modena against the Porsches, yet to win. Well, yet to win in a straight fight on the road. Oh no, that's not true. They won the second race, didn't they? So the Ferrari, number 50, chasing. At the moment, the Freisinger Motorsport Porsche is leading. And the number 50 Ferrari under threat from behind. Gets blown by the Lister Storm of Jamie Campbell-Walter in 6th spot with its 80 kilos of penalty weight. And that, well, they will lose a lot of that before the next race in a month's time as they go to Anderstorp in Sweden. That'll be a fun one. Of course, it'll be a month off for most of these teams. Some of the drivers, though, will be competing in the Le Mans 24 hours in just a fortnight's time. And splash and dash time now for our second-placed NGT car. We've already seen Antonio Garcia in third-placed Porsche come in for a splash and dash. Lap 105, and the number 50 Ferrari comes in. One of the Auto Orlando cars sitting there on its jacks, and that's out of the running, which is a shame because that was going very well as well, the second Auto Orlando car. And waiting to get the wave to reignite it. Yep, all goes in smoothly enough. Very complicated starting and restarting technique. Switch it off, allow the electronics to reset itself, engage the gear, switch it on, yada yada yada. If you stall it during a pit stop, you can lose 15 to 20 seconds getting the Ferrari going, because obviously you're in a panic and you forget the right sequence. It can be a problem, but it wasn't there. Here is Antonio Garcia though, and he is going to be a problem. The Ferrari just back out of the pits. Of course, he's still very much in the racing groove, but Garcia now, having made his splash and dash, is closing from behind, locking a brake there down into Le Mans, showing just how hard he's pushing, and that indicates that the Spaniard is looking for second place to make it a Porsche 1-2. The Freisinger Motorsport Porsche is our race leader. Started by Stefan Ortelli, now driven by Sascha Massen. Haven't seen him for a while, but he is out front, and it's a Ferrari-Porsche battle for second, not for the overall win. Garcia just a couple of seconds behind the Ferrari. And if the director gives us a long shot, there you are, just got a glimpse of the gap. Through Bugatti, down the hill. Down the 3 gears, and then looking for that apex over the curbs, holding it in, letting it run wide out to the line, then over to the top of the hill, aiming for that 50-meter marker board, then brake, turn in, take the late second apex, rumble a little bit over the riffles in Monza, up the hill, tunnel, and then over the top and down the other side, fighting it all the way out over the curbs there, onto the front straight, over to the right-hand side to avoid the bumpiest bits of the track. And the Porsche behind him, 2.18 seconds is the gap. Garcia will not care about being a gentleman now for the Viper, nor should he need to. Viper's got plenty of horsepower to squirt by where he can, but Garcia is in a battle for podium positions now, and the number 2 car, Vincent Vos, may or may not know that, may or may not care, but will not necessarily be waved by at Antonio Garcia's detriment, or to his detriment. And Andrea Piccini sweltering in the baking heat of Jarama in the Ferrari. And in comes the NGT race leader. This is the vital splash and dash that will deny a Ferrari victory. The Freisinger Motorsport team, the Dunlop tyre technician, face on the ground there. there's dedication to the cause, checking the tyres. But if they have to change them, it will be a calamitous stop for the Freisinger car. Overall race leader, still the Ferrari, and still running away with it. But the NGT leader having his stop and go, his splash and dash rather, and in that balance hangs the NGT class win. Will he get out in time? Piccini using big dab of oversteer there to control the tail end. Around he comes, And again, popping out of Monza through tunnel and onto the front straight. Well, the Ferrari has never looked anything other than supremely composed here. 5.5 minutes remaining. 3 laps, good to go. Let's hope so. Better not be running short on fuel now. This is not the time in the race when you want to be backing off the mixture to try and lean it all out. Lights on the 23 car, as they have been all race at the back. And probably needs to start giving some headlamp flash at the front as well. Piccini certainly working up a sweat as he leads the race. On board in the Viper. This is the number 3 Car Sport Holland car. And it is in second place still. Mike Hazeman's Give Chase. Mike Hazeman's cannot spell give up, never mind pronounce it. And he will give chase all the way through in the hope, even hope against hope, that something will happen to the race leader. After all, it happened to them. The wheel fell off when Kumpen was leading quite comfortably, and an assured victory certainly was theirs, or what looked like an assured victory at Silverstone. And that's not the sort of thing that you forget, not the sort of thing that you wish on your rivals, unless of course they're leading in the closing stages of the race. I think they'd be quite happy to see that happen to the Ferrari and take the victory that eluded them 2 races ago. Well, Mike Hazeman's, again, as ever, charging hard in this car. They work so hard at every aspect of their racing. The team developing the car, the engine, the gearbox, and also the drivers are just never give up, the Car Sport Holland guys. Christophe Bouchou in 3rd place, a minute 15 behind the Ferrari. Vincent Vos 4th, lapped. Paul Belmondo 5th, lapped. Jamie Campbell-Walter 6th, 2 laps down in the Lister Storm. 2 laps down, well, might sound like a sound thrashing, but like a 1-all draw against Sweden, it's points, isn't it? And it's survival. And they lose weight for the next game. And when they come to Anderstorp in Sweden in a month's time, they will be leaner and fitter and faster. And at Anderstorp, that will count just as much as it does here in the twists and turns of the Spanish circuit. And it'll be quite as hot in Anderstorp. Then again, the Swedish Grand Prix always used to be blindingly hot, didn't they? Either that or torrential rain, or both. So we'll have to wait and see exactly what that brings us. But that's a long month away, and just 3 short minutes away is the checkered flag. Looking back through the field, number 1 car, Christophe Bouchou and David Terrian in 3rd place. And finally getting some sort of form together for this car. They have really had a very out-of-sorts start to the year. And the BMS Scuderia Italia team not racing these cars at Le Mans, but the Pro Drive entry will be raced in the Le Mans 24 Hours in a fortnight's time. Will we see the Ferrari racing at the head of the field there as well in the GTS category? Well, we'll have to see what it can do up against the Chevy Corvettes and the Vipers. Of course, Audi looking for their 3rd straight win in the Le Mans 24 Hours. Eurosport will be there throughout the week to document every twist and turn of what will, needless to say, be a very exciting race weekend, even if a slightly long and bleary-eyed one for motor racing fans across Europe. Le Mans 24 Hours, rarely less than exciting, and often absolutely spellbinding weekend of motorsport. I look forward to seeing who among the runners and riders will be the best challenge to the Audi Leviathans. Now, Pedro Garcia, 2nd place here in the closing stages, could happen. He's got the Ferrari right in front of him, and they've just, well, got to get rid of this Belmondo Viper. But as the Ferrari is moved a little offline by the Viper, is there a way through for the Porsche? We don't see it yet. Piccini coming up the hill in the Ferrari. Don't think we're going to see the checkered flag this time. I think he may have 1 more to go as he pops out of Monza. The 2nd Freisinger Motorsport Porsche, in fact, in front of him. That's the Bert Longin car. Across the line comes Piccini. Well, blue flag being waved at the slower car, and I think this will be now the last lap. Andrea Piccini crossing just a few seconds before the 3-hour mark, so he will do this final tour, and one more lap, 3.85 kilometers to do, separating this team and their first win. Now, what will be interesting is what happens to the battle for NGT, and almost inevitably, I'm afraid, we're unlikely to see it as the director cycles around the cars, driving around on their own, even if they are at the head of the field. Piccini still leading by a country mile from Hasemans. Hasemans equally clear of the number 1 and the number 2 Labra competition cars. But the closing stages of the race, the very last lap of the race, will be demanding times as we see Jean-Deli Delatraz and his, what I assume must be his young son, on the pit wall waiting for Andrea Piccini and the Ferrari. The battle for second place, Pedro Garcia versus Christian Pescatore in the NGT category. We won't get to see it. Tunnel turn, last corner, out onto the front straight comes Andrea Piccini, and it is victory for the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari. Andrea Piccini and Jean-Denis Delatraz suffer no dismay here. At Brno in the Czech Republic, they looked in a winning position when the car was put off the road, ingested something it didn't like and failed. No such problems here, and there was the NGT battle across the line. The Ferrari held off the Porsche for second place as Hasemans and Kumpen take second in GT. Third and fourth will be the Labra cars, and well, the Ferrari ProDrive All-Stars BMS Scuderia Italia teams are very happy with the victory. And there, the NGT winner finally picked up by the camera. Stefan Ortelli and Sascha Masson doing the second stint, taking that splash and dash at the end and still not losing the lead of the class. Montermini and Pescatore's Ferrari second, and Vettel and Garcia in their Porsche in third place. So Ferrari win in the GT class, but come second in the NGT category. Incidentally, further down the order behind the Labra cars in third and fourth place, Belmondo and Gosselin in the second Belmondo Viper in fifth place, the only one to finish, and then sixth place, Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nicolas Sprenger, so they'll shed a bunch of weight ahead of Kurt Mollikens and Marco Paltella, the Finno-Belge, anyway, those two in their Porsche 996 Turbo. And then behind them, Jarien Lafon and the NGT winners. Montermini Pescatore just holding off Garcia by a fractions at the end in the battle for second and third in the NGT category. And 23 cars making it to the finish with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 retirements, therefore. That's a big old field of finishers. First race we won, says Piccini. The team did a great job. The car was fantastic, and we were able to run at a fast pace. At the end, I just was controlling Mike Hasemans behind me. Didn't need to push too hard, and that was good because of the heat. So the 23 car then, the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferrari wins its first race. 4 races, 3 different winners.
I'm very happy. It's my first year in race in Europe. I only raced in America so far, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great race. The team worked so well. The tires were so good, and we were pushing very, very hard because we didn't know if the Ferrari would stop once or twice, and we were very happy when we saw that the Ferrari pitted the second time, so we could pit as well, and we didn't have to run so much on fuel economy.
Of course, Sasha racing in the States and the 2-hour 45 American Le Mans races, used to the 1 pit stop and just squeak it through to the end strategy. So Ferrari first, Carsport Holland second, and Labra in third place. Well, the Super Racing Weekend magazine is on Thursday this week at 6 on British Eurosport, 7 across UK. And we will be at Anderstorp, as I mentioned, in a month from now, 4 weekends from now, round 5 of the LG Super Racing Weekends, Anderstorp in Sweden. I really just can't stress enough how much I'm looking forward to that one. Haven't seen Anderstorp since I played it on the computer simulation game of racing in the 60s. Grand Prix legends, yeah, we love it. Now then, but between now and then, much more sports car racing, GT racing, call it what you like. The prototypes, the 675 prototypes, the GTS cars and the GT cars will be in action in a fortnight's time, the longest weekend for them and for everybody else of the summer, from Le Mans in June. Mark Cole, and I'm delighted to say David Leslie, will be alongside me in the booth. Please make a note in your diaries. Join us for that. The action starts with programs on Thursday, Friday, and then of course Saturday and Sunday, the race itself. Always a high